Hi pals, and welcome to another episode of Witchtober. This introduction is going to be a short one. I'm just going to show you my sketches, going to tell you which one I chose, and if you follow me on Instagram, which is linked down below and can be found here, you'll probably already know which one I'm going to choose. So here's my sketchbook, and here are my sketches for this week. We've got broom, cat, potion, bats, and tree leaves. And honestly, I had a little bit of a difficult time choosing this week. I really liked cat. I thought it was really cute. I hate her foot. Don't look at that. I also didn't mind the idea of this one, broom, because I just thought the concept of a witch in capri pants and little block sandals was just kind of funny. I don't know. I also didn't hate this one for potions, and I did mention in my last video that I wanted to do bigger illustrations, more of headshots and close-up designs. So eventually, after having whipped up this tree leaves sketch that, I don't know, I really wasn't feeling it for this one. I didn't really have an idea. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had an idea that I might want to create her dress out of tree leaves, but then that idea got way too big and way too out of hand, way too fast. So after I did that one, I decided that of all of these four being my clear favorites and this one just being an add-on that I kind of had to force myself to do, I would choose bats. Now, I didn't really use this prompt, I don't think, as well as I could have. Really, all I did was give her some bats on her face, and she's got some bat eyeliner. And in the final illustration, I did add some tattoos on her hands and on her collarbone. But if you would like to see the mock-up sketch, please head to my Instagram where you'll be able to find the Procreate time-lapse that I did for her colour selection. And if you'd like to see the final illustration, just keep watching. Okay, so I know that I bang on all the time about how many layers I use on the skin and so on and so forth, and it's necessary and it helps you to build up vibrant colour and shadow and highlight and blah blah blah. I also bang on about how I am an amateur and I don't know how to properly paint things because, I don't know, I'm a beginner and you shouldn't look for tutorials from me and all that sort of stuff. But today that stuff rings especially importantly. The layers in particular, the amateur bit, I don't know, I'm pretty happy with this one. I think that there are definitely improvements to be made, and especially in the shadow and lighting department, I knew where my light source was coming from, but I didn't exactly know how that would interact with the face itself and how to incorporate shadows and highlights. But in the end, I think it all worked out okay. Now for the layers, again I started with something other than the face because, like I said in my last video, the face is the most important part of the piece to me, and I didn't want to begin with a colour that I wasn't certain of because, like I've said before, I'm not a master of mixing skin tones, and I just wanted to make sure that it looked okay on other parts of the skin before I moved on to the face, which is what I did here. I think I'm getting a bit better. I do like how this skin tone came out. It looks a little bit orangey on camera, but that's not exactly true to life, so I was happy with it. I kept going with it, I layered it. It doesn't look too orangey at the moment. It looks more orangey when I start to paint in her ginger hair, and you can see the saturation is a little bit similar. However, once I do the layers on the hair, that tends to calm it down a bit, and it looks fine, I think. One thing I would change about the way that I layered the skin, however, is the white parts that I left. I thought that it would be beneficial for the highlighting and shadows that I left white spots on the face where the most light would be hitting it. Eventually, you'll see that I paint over them because I just find them a little bit too harsh, a little bit too stark, and I wanted to mute them down and make the whole face more cohesive. I think that a big part of improving in art is figuring out where you can improve and looking back at your art and seeing what you like about it, what you dislike about it, and how you can change those things, how you can move forward. And for this piece, for me, for my own improvement, the way that I think that I could change this problem that I'm having is simply by taking my own advice and layering a bit more than I did. So what I might have done instead is just to not leave those white parts, to instead go over the whole face with a wash of colour and maybe have it diluted a little more than it was in the beginning so that I could have more translucent layers and build on them. And then by the end I would have come out with almost the same kind of piece, but maybe with slightly better blending, slightly better tone overall and without the need for color correction. And I think the reason that I made this mistake is because in the other pieces that I've done, they've been a lot smaller. This was approximately 6x8, so pretty similar to last week's video. Basically, the skin and face takes up more of the page than what I have been working on recently. So what happened was I was working on sections of the piece and trying to cut them out so that they worked together and the paint didn't dry, so that I didn't have sections that would compete with each other and overlap and you could see the clear line, and basically the blending didn't go as well as it could have because the face was bigger than I'm used to working with recently. So I'm glad that I could identify the problem and figure out how to fix it, and basically all I want to do in the future is take my advice. Do more layering, use more translucent layers, and I've also mentioned in previous videos that it would be a good idea, in order to get a solid wash of colour, to go over the whole area of the face with clear water. Then the page stays a little bit damper so that the page doesn't dry as quickly while you're trying to blend and layer colours. So I definitely need to do that in the future, especially with pieces where the face is bigger or just bigger pieces in general. And I need to not leave white patches on the face when the face has a large surface area, because it just comes off too stark and too different, and it's just not something that I like about my style. Also, as I start to do the hair here, not only can you see the colour competing with the flesh tone, which I do end up fixing, but I also forgot her ears, which I didn't notice until I started doing her hair. So I do go back and do them, but I'm going to do her eyebrows first.
Just you and me, and we'll rule our worlds. And if you think it's over, it's gonna start. You'll be right, baby. You'll be eyesight smart. Come into the light and finally see what's going on with you and with me. So come on, go. Oh, little please don't go. Leave it to me, girl. Oh, leave it to me, girl. Oh, leave it to me, girl. Leave it to me, girl. Oh, leave it to me, girl. Oh, little please don't go.
And this colour that I'm doing her eyebrows is a colour that's more true to the hair colour that she ends up with. And yeah, so the idea was that I wanted to make her ginger because, I don't know, I love the colour combination of orange and black, and I guess it's especially appropriate through the Halloween season anyway. So yeah, there was something else with the hair that I wanted to mention. If you have had a look at the Instagram Procreate colour selection illustration that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you'll notice that when I was doing that, I put white highlights throughout the hair when I was done with all the shadow layering, and I didn't do that with the painting with a white gel pen like I would normally do. So the way that I did the highlights for the hair was basically that I just left out painting the parts of the hair that I wanted to shine. So I painted down a full base layer like I should have done with the face, and then I just built on top of that with darker and darker colours and only left the parts that I wanted to shine, rather than adding on the white highlight after the fact, which is what I did in my last painting, and I wasn't super happy with it, but that was black hair, and black hair is particularly difficult to paint in my opinion, or maybe just for me, I don't know. So I figured I'd try it again with this hair colour because maybe it might be different, maybe it might work better, I don't know. Point of the matter is, I would really prefer to try and find a way to put highlights in the hair after the fact. Watercolor does really ask you to work with negative space a lot, and I am trying to achieve that and do that, but I do think that it does need a little bit of help. It could do with a bit more of a pop. So initially I painted in the inside of her mouth with black, and then I realized, oh, that's not very realistic, and you'd be able to see her tongue and the inside of her mouth wouldn't be black like at all, unless it was like the corners and deep shadows. So I went over it with this kind of, I guess, burgundy color, something that was closer to a flesh-ish pink tone. And then I went back through over her skin and decided to add a little bit of chocolate brown to the mixture that I had for her flesh tone, and I figured that would add a little bit of depth. A couple of times throughout this painting process, you see it with the eyebrow first, but with her eyes in particular, I made a few choices that were questionable as to the order of painting things. So with her eyebrow in particular, and then with her eyes and her eyeliner, and with the line art, I had in my mind before starting that I really should make sure to start from the top left and work down, because then I won't stick my hand in the paint, I won't have any problems with smudging or getting paint all over the painting where I didn't want paint on the painting, if that makes sense. But I did it a couple of times with the pumpkin prompt and I was really unhappy that I had kind of messed with it. Watercolor is forgiving in that you can kind of pull up the paint sometimes, but I just wanted to try and avoid it as much as I could. So basically I was thinking that, and still I started with her right eye, I started with her right eyebrow, and I started on the batwing eyeliner on her right eye, and had to move over to the left or just wait for something to dry. So as per usual, I jumped around a lot in this painting, and that's another reason why I can't do tutorials. When painting the background here, I was going for a particular colour that again was on the mock-up sketch, and it turned out a lot more blue than I was intending, or maybe teal is a better word for it. It doesn't look this blue in real life, but it definitely looks really blue on camera. So what I did was, rather than waiting for it to dry and painting another layer over it, I wanted to sort of mix the two colours together. So I put more of a lime green on top of the teal as it was drying, and I really liked how that worked. So I went on to do exactly the same for her nails and earrings, which are all the same colour because I wanted them to all match up, and that would bring cohesion to the painting. I lost a little bit of footage here after I did her lips because I ran into the same problem that I did last week, and that was that I didn't clear the SD card that I used in my phone of the previous week's footage, so it ran out of memory, and that was really annoying. And yeah, I missed the whole process of drawing the bats on her cheek, one side of her batwing eyeliner, and a lot of her tattoos. However, you will see that I did manage to pick up the Aloha Mora that I wrote in cursive as a tattoo on her collarbone. However, it's not my finest work. It's really hard to write with a brush. And I know that Aloha Mora has like nothing to do with bats, but I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd, which is probably also why I popped in the little Hermione figurine that I have in here. Just because as soon as I think witch, I think Hermione, I think Harry Potter, and yeah, I just wanted to tie in my own little personal touch, which I guess isn't that personal because Harry Potter isn't personal to me. Everybody loves Harry Potter, but anyway, moving on. I also lost a lot of the footage of the line art process, but I did get this bit of me doing her eyeliner, which I was really proud of. I struggle with keeping a steady hand, so yeah, I don't know, I was really nervous about this and it turned out how I wanted it to, so I don't know, I'm allowed to be proud of myself, shut up. But it isn't zoomed in because I'm proud, it's zoomed in because you could see my fat head if I didn't zoom it in. So last video I identified some problems that I had with my own line art and the line weight I was talking about specifically, and the way that I managed to remedy that in this particular painting was by adding a little bit more water to the paint that I was using. I realized that the reason that I was having a few of the clumping issues that I was having was not only because my hand wasn't as steady as I would like it to be, but also because the paint itself was clumping up and it was just being a little bit difficult to work with. Anyway, there she is. Again, I missed a couple of steps. I did add some Posca highlights to her eyes and her face, but yeah, this is what she looks like, and here is some peel porn. Thank you so much for watching this week's witchtober video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please make sure that you subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button for notifications when I upload, like the video if you liked it, and I would really appreciate you just sharing it in any way that you think is best. Hopefully I'll see you next week. And now you can enjoy Nova being spooked by the painting that was just gently resting against her and then coming back and laying down on it and refusing to give it back to me. Bye pals!